Good morning, Bill. Good morning, everyone.
All right.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning. So let me make you the host. There you go. All right.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. I just made you the host. I didn't know if you're going to kick it off, you or Mitch. So,
I think it would just be me.
okay.
Yeah, this is just a training, on the Everest services.
Yep.
So let me just start sharing my screen. We'll get started.
All right.
Okay, I believe you see my screen now.
Yeah, I see it. Everybody else see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Melisha Louie. I'm actually going to be your go-to person at Everest. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. But basically today, I'm not going to be talking about the actual Final Expense Express product with Transamerica, but more so what are the different services and features of Everest so that you can, incorporate this in your conversations with your prospects or your clients and really understand the value that Everest could bring now that it's part of the new final expense product with Transamerica. So let's get started. So as a company, we best explain how Everest works. It's basically we provide a funeral planning and concierge service when that time comes. But we can't offer our services on its own. It has to be attached to a life insurance plan. So when you look at the very first bullet point, Everest provides the funeral planning and concierge service, and then the insurance company that we partner with provides that monetary benefit. And there's a reason why we structured it as such. There's two greatest fears around funeral planning. First is the fear of being taken advantage of or not knowing where to start. And then second is the fear of not knowing where to get the money. That's why it's rolled into a life insurance plan. So this is why, again, we have to attach our services to a life insurance product because the insurance money that the beneficiaries will be receiving is what they're going to be using to cover the final or the funeral costs. So after we do all the planning at Everest, then it's the family who will be paying the funeral home directly, but they're not going to be worrying about where to get the money because of that life insurance claims that the family's going to be receiving. Here's a video that kind of really best describes how it works when that time comes. It's a 100-second video, and here it is.
Hi, my name's Will, and I'm dead. I know it's sad, but hey, a lot of awesome people are dead. It happens, I'm fine. And while my family is a bit upset, they're not stressed. Because when I was among the land of the living, I made the incredibly smart move of signing up for Everest. If I hadn't, my family would have had to go all over town researching funeral homes and services. Dealing with high-pressure salespeople who just want to upsell them. And having to choose from a bunch of options and packages they might not even need. All while dealing with the loss of someone very special. Me. That's why I chose Everest. It's a funeral concierge rolled into a life insurance plan. All you have to do is talk to one person, your Everest advisor. They ask you a few questions, learn exactly what you want and don't want, then negotiate directly with funeral homes, so you know that your family isn't getting taken advantage of. This can save you thousands of bucks. Even so, funerals aren't cheap. It can take weeks to get your life insurance payment, and funeral homes want your money now. But if you have a plan with Everest, you can get your money immediately, like as little as 2 days. That way you'll have everything you need in time. Back when I was still alive, I didn't think much about my death. It wasn't my style. But I did want my family to be taken care of, and Everest was there to do that.
Thank you, Will.
No problemo.
Wherever you are,
They can't hear me.
All right, so the two things that were highlighted in that video is how the family was just a phone call away from an Everest licensed funeral director who has at least 10 years worth of experience. Our funeral director will pretty much do everything and anything as long as it's legal and achievable. And our main purpose is to really make it easier for the people who'll be left behind. We are like the 911, but on the other side of the fence. When you look at the second bullet point here, 80% of our calls are picked up within 20 seconds, right? So that's one thing that was highlighted there, is how there was a funeral director who pretty much helped the family. The second thing that was highlighted there was how the family received that money in as quick as 2 days. With the Transamerica product though, it's 3 business days, so it's in as little as 3 business days. It's not within 3 business days, it's in as little as 3 business days. And I'll talk more about that expedited claims process of Transamerica later on when I get to like that slide, but basically 2 things, right? So going back to that concierge service, this funeral planning and concierge service is available 24/7. It's available worldwide and available in 240 languages. So when I say worldwide, let's say a client ends up backpacking in Europe, something unfortunate happens there, we can help bring them back home to the United States. And it's not as simple as just bringing them back home here. We have to find a local funeral home in Europe, prepare the body, help the family with the government documentation, figure out which airline to use, find a local funeral home here to receive the body, and then plan for the funeral service. We've had clients where they've passed away here, but their wishes are to be buried in their home country. So we can do that as well. Again, at Everest, we are like, wedding planners. We can do everything and anything as long as it's legal and achievable and carry out the client's wishes or the family's wishes. What happens behind the scenes is that, well, first, you need to educate your clients to let their family know that one of the first things they need to be doing is calling the 1-800 number at Everest, step 1. The reason why is because we need to assign an Everest funeral director right off the bat. And that funeral director is going to be the one dealing with the family all throughout the entire process. And part of the funeral, one of the things that the funeral director will be doing is sending the beneficiaries the Transamerica death claim forms. So they send it to the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries will sign those forms, send it back to Everest, and then Everest will be the ones to send it to Transamerica directly. We have an expedited lane with Transamerica because it will be our job to really follow up with Transamerica, make sure that they're able to send that money, pay that death claim to the beneficiaries in as quick as 3 days. So 2 things that you need to, if you're taking down notes, 2 things about that expedited claims. First is that Transamerica will advance up to $25,000. So if your client ends up getting a $50,000 final expense, Transamerica will advance $25,000 out of the $50,000 in as quick as 3 days. Second, this expedited claims feature is not available within the 2-year contestability period. So that means they cannot promise that they can pay it out in as quick as 3 days. They'll just have to go through the normal claims process if it's within the 2-year contestability period. Now, reach out to Steve or your Transamerica RVP for more information on the expedited claims, because they have a few more stipulations or rules around their expedited claims, like no multiple beneficiaries, I believe. Death cannot occur outside of the United States. So they have like a list of things to for you to know in terms of what policies will be eligible for the expedited claims process. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because this expedited claims feature is because this is one of the biggest things you can use in your conversations to set yourself apart from competition. All insurance companies require a government death certificate. But if it's an insurance product that has the Everest rider, we don't need to wait for the government death certificate. Everest has created a special form for Transamerica where we only need an Everest funeral director to sign off of it, and that legally allows Transamerica to advance that up to 25,000 amount in as quick as 3 days, as long as it's outside of the 2-year contestability period. So that's a huge selling point. Now, going back to my slide here, just quickly, like I said, that Everest funeral director will take care of everything from step 1 to step 5 and 100,000 things in between. One of the things we do best is step 3, which is negotiating on behalf of the grieving family members with the funeral homes in the area. So this is available on our agent website. You can download this, print it, or use it in your conversations with your clients or prospects. But it shows you how we can save families thousands of dollars. The K, the G, the O family, these are not hypothetical cases. These are real families that we've helped, and how much we help, and how much savings we've done for them. So just as an example, the O family, Everest negotiated its funeral home service charge down to $5,800 and helped the family locate suitable property in the same cemetery for $20,000, saving them $55,000. Now, of course, the family wasn't too happy that they were trying to take advantage of them. So Everest ended up finding them another funeral home to work with. And so ultimately we saved them $11,000. So here's one of the things, again, you can leverage Everest in your business. Like, again, being the final expense space, it could be as simple as just, a client choosing one product where it's $6 a month cheaper than the next, right? But with this Everest rider attached to the Transamerica Final Expense Express product, you're no longer just providing a $25,000 check, right? It's not just a $25,000 value, because the family can expect more monetary value in the back end side of things when the Everest funeral director helps save them thousands of dollars, right? So you can add the potential savings that the Everest funeral director can bring to the table on top of the actual check they're going to be receiving from Transamerica. So potentially it's 25,000 face amount plus $11,000 potential savings. It's $35,000 value, right? So we don't have like an average of how much we can save our clients, but it's a case per case basis. That's why we don't really say, oh, we'll save them 20% off the bat. It really depends on the situation, the client's wishes or the family's wishes, and what kind of funeral home we're dealing with. But more often than not, we're able to negotiate because our funeral directors, like I said, they're licensed and they have at least 10 years worth of experience. So in summary, around that funeral planning and concierge service, when that time comes, no company does what Everest does. This is 24/7. It's available worldwide, available in 240 languages. And here's the thing, here's our blanket statement. We can do everything and anything as long as it's legal and achievable. Okay, so the beauty about the Everest concierge service, we're not just there when that time comes, we're also there during the planning ahead part, because part of the Everest value proposition are these online planning tools like the legal documents, the will, power of attorney, healthcare directive. We have Tenzing, which is our virtual vault. It's a cloud-based storage account, which I'm going to discuss more in detail in the next few slides. And then we have Price Finder, which is a database of 25,000 funeral homes across North America. So anytime your client needs help in utilizing these tools, they can call the same 24/7 number. It won't be a funeral director who will be helping them with these tools, but our call center, and they can help the client navigate through the tools, the website, show them where to click next. And this is a 24/7 service. So that's actually a huge, this is a big deal in terms of providing that top-notch service to your clients. Now, all of these services are rolled into the Transamerica Final Expense Express product. So again, just kind of recapping that expedited claims feature. We will advance, oh, not we, sorry, Transamerica will advance 25,000, up to 25,000 of the face amount in as quick as 3 days, as long as it's outside of the 2-year contestability period. Okay, so I would still highlight this in my conversations if I was to be, you know, if I were going to be an agent again. I used to be an agent, but yes, so I would highlight this in my conversations. This is a huge feature of Everest that allows Transamerica to advance that money in as quick as 3 days. So now we're going to unpack the different online planning tools. Let's start with the legal documents, like the will, power of attorney, healthcare directive. We have a video that shows you how that platform works or how our software works. So here is that video.
Did you know over 55% of adults don't have a will? Without a will, your estate is left to an unpredictable legal process, and your heirs may be subjected to an expensive and time-consuming process that usually requires hiring a lawyer. But it doesn't have to be that way. Introducing Will Prep by Everest. Our online document preparation system, Law Assure, simplifies the legal work of creating a will and other important legal documents. All it takes is answering a series of easy-to-understand questions, each with helpful explanations and examples. Our dynamic system uses artificial intelligence to tailor and draft clauses based on your unique circumstances to create a document that perfectly reflects your wishes. And once your documents are ready, they're securely stored and easily accessible in your My Documents folder, allowing you to make changes whenever you want. When you're satisfied, simply print, sign, and store your documents as needed. You can also store your documents in your Tenzing vault. With Will Prep, you can create a legal last will and testament, a living will, and powers of attorney, all to ensure your wishes are upheld and those you care about are well taken care of. And for every document, we provide detailed yet easy to understand guidance notes, helping you navigate the legal landscape. From explaining terms to choosing an executor, we guide you every step of the way. And you can rest assured, all our documents are crafted by top attorneys and periodically reviewed and updated, keeping up with changes in the law. Will Prep, because you deserve peace of mind.
All right, so let's start with the importance of having a will. So we have a slide here, what you see on the screen here, that shows you a list of things that may happen if the client were to pass away without a will, if they die intestate. We're not lawyers here, we cannot give legal advice, but these bullet points are approved by our compliance. You can share these with your clients in terms of if you want to get into that conversation, why they need to get a will done. Now, in terms of our platform, right, as you saw in the video, we partnered with a third-party vendor called Epoch, and they're a legal services company. So they draft these legal documents. They're drafted by legal professionals. They're state specific, and they provide these documents as a service for companies like Fortune 100 companies, companies like us, so that we can provide it to our clients. Now, we pay them a fee, but your client, they don't have to pay for this service. It's already part of the Everest rider. It's built into that Transamerica final expense at no additional cost to your clients. So as you saw in the video, it's artificially intelligent designed. We ask a series of questions, and how those questions are answered will determine the draft of the document. It will actually show the client in real time how those documents are updated and how it's being drafted right before their eyes. Now, this is customizable anytime, updated anytime. So that's like huge. And if, like I said, if they need help, like your clients need help in navigating through this software, they can call our Everest 1-800 number anytime. It's 24/7. and they can walk them through step by step on how to complete the will. Now, granted, they are our call center, so they cannot be giving legal advice. What they can do is just provide the technical support of like where to click next, how to save, and whatnot. But they cannot give legal advice. At the end of the day, more than 50% of Americans do not have a will. So this is allowing the clients to have a basic will in place. Now, if you have clients who have a more complicated situation, of course, send into a lawyer. But like I said, 50%, more than 50% of Americans do not have a will, and you're providing that added value service by being able to let your clients know that part of this new final expense with the Everest rider, they're able to get these documents completed. And it's not just the will we provide power of attorney, healthcare directive. Like I said, they're state specific. No, so these documents are in English because English is our main business language in America. So contracts, legal documents have to be in English in America. But good question though. All right, so that platform, it auto saves your documents, but once you print them so that you can have the 2 witnesses sign, have it notarized, you're probably going to want a digital copy of those signed documents. Now, where are you going to store them? Part of the Everest rider is this virtual vault called Tenzing, and here's our video on Tenzing.
Welcome to Tenzing, the secure, cloud-based data vault that keeps all your important personal information safely archived and easily accessible from anywhere in the world. A product of Everest Funeral Concierge, Tenzing organizes, safeguards, and curates your vital data and documents. Financial records, wills, insurance policies, estate plans, memberships, photos, and other personal documents can all be safely archived while you're alive and accessed by your authorized designees after you're gone. Tenzing uses multiple layers of data encryption and authentication to provide high-level security for your private data. When you log into Tenzing, a set of pre-formatted folder types is already in place to help you store data and documents you want to make available after your death. These folders can be customized in many ways to organize your information exactly the way you like. Uploading, organizing, and accessing your data is simple and convenient, and you can create as many folders as you like. Tenzing allows you to select up to 4 people as your designees, who you will authorize to access the contents of specific folders upon your death. For example, you may authorize your executor to access your will and other legal documents, while allowing a different designee access to treasured family photos and letters you want passed along to your loved ones. Everest has a proven multi-step process to confirm your death, to validate your designee's legitimacy, and then grant them access to the folders you have authorized. After your designees have been confirmed, they have 30 days to access your Tenzing account and the folders you have authorized them to manage. Tenzing is also available on your mobile device. Simply visit either the Apple App Store or Google Play to download Everest Tenzing to your device. Then, log in using your existing Tenzing credentials. The mobile app syncs with your Tenzing account in real time and provides additional functionality like adding content with your camera. To learn more about Tenzing, visit the Tenzing Help Center or send us a note through our convenient support portal. Everest advisors are always available to assist you with Tenzing or any other Everest service. Tenzing by Everest, your personal online data concierge.
Okay, so basically, like I mentioned earlier, this is a cloud-based storage account where your clients can store all the important information that the family will need to finalize the estate. The average turnaround time to finalize an estate is about 12 to 16 months. And part of that delay, or why it takes that long, is because, executors are usually waiting on the family to provide all the documents, all the information they would need to finalize the estate. So what you see on the screen here is just a list of suggested things that they can upload into this digital vault so that, their family will not cause the unnecessary delay to, finalize the entire estate. Now, here's the thing. How are we different from other storage accounts, like virtual storage accounts out there? We are able to allow the client to choose up to 4 people that they trust to be the designee. Those designees are the 4 people who will be able to retrieve or have access to this Tenzing account when that time comes and retrieve the information. And the client needs to set those 4 people up while they're still around. So let's say the client has Everest, uploaded stuff in Tenzing, but they weren't able to assign those 4 people. When that time comes, no one can call Everest and say, hey, I'm the spouse, I'm the daughter, I'm this and that. Can I access my loved one's Tenzing account? The answer would be no. So it's very important as a post-sale activity, like after you've sold the policy to your clients, take the extra time to sit down with your clients and show them how Everest works. And make sure you're letting them know about the designees. So how it works basically is when you go on the website as a client, there's a button that says My Designees. You have to just put in their names as a client, put in the names of the 4 people that they trust, plus their email address. Once they hit submit, Everest will send an email to those 4 people, and those 4 people will receive that email from Everest. They accept their role as a designee, and then they will have to set up the 4 security questions that they can choose, so that when that time comes, Everest will be verifying them as a designee by asking them these 4 questions that they chose. And once they pass, we send them their own login credentials, and they can log in and retrieve the information from Tenzing. Now, you saw in that video that they can actually organize the information there according to different folders, and they can assign which designee will have access to which folder. So let's say one of the designees is the eldest daughter. She can have access to all the photos and videos folder, but not have access to the wills folder, right? Or the legal documents folder. So again, they can organize it as such. Now, I'm going to switch gears here for a minute. I'm going to share with you as an agent how you can leverage Tenzing in your business. So there's 3 business strategies that you can use. First is that Tenzing could be a good fact-finding opportunity. So let's say it's not just final expense that you do. You want to build a fence around the client, help them with other areas of their financial plan. If you're going to take the time to show them how Everest works and show them how to upload documents into Tenzing, it could be where you're watching what they're uploading in terms of, hey, Mr. Client, I saw you just uploaded a term policy that's going to renew in 2 months. Are you aware that that premium is going to jump from $50 a month to $500 a month? So it's a way for you to like help them in other areas. Second, getting referrals. If you're taking the time to sit down with your clients and show them how Everest works, you can suggest to your client, why don't you bring those 4 designees? Why don't you bring those 4 people that you trust, so that they'll understand their role as a designee and they understand what it is you have with Everest. So when that time comes, they'll know what to do. Now, come that appointment, you're showing the client how to upload documents into Tenzing, how there's a will there, how there's a 1-800 concierge service. What do you think's happening in the back of the designee's mind? They're probably, probably wondering how to get one for themselves, right? Like, you know what, Mom, it's great you got Everest and that you're assigning me to be as one of the designees, but I'm married now and I have small children. I'd want to have Everest for myself too, and for my spouse, right? So you could be walking away from that appointment with 4 more applications because those designees are seeing the value of what their loved one has in place now. Now, the third thing is client retention. Again, being the final expense space, I've talked to other final expense brokers out there, and they said sometimes they're just hoping and praying it's going to stick in the books for at least 13 months until it's outside of the chargeback period, right? Because another agent can easily just come in and say, hey, my final expense is $6 a month cheaper. But if your client understands that your final expense with them or their final expense with you has the Everest rider, and this is what Everest can do for them, they're going to think twice about canceling that policy with you to go with the next broker just because it's $6 a month cheaper. They're going to have the conversation with that other broker and ask things like, well, does yours have a concierge service? Does yours have these legal documents? Does it have tensing, like other tools, right? So it could help with your persistency rate. Now, the last tool I want to share with you is Price Finder. Here's our video on Price Finder, and I'm going to show you how that report looks like.
In life's most challenging times, finding the right information shouldn't add to your stress. That's why we created Everest Price Finder. Price Finder is a comprehensive database that displays prices for funeral services that were provided by funeral homes in the area you select. We help you save valuable time and remove the difficulty of contacting multiple funeral homes. Our team of highly trained advisors, including seasoned funeral professionals, meticulously gather and update funeral prices from providers across the country every year. Whether you're searching for funeral home prices in one or multiple areas, Price Finder displays all the funeral providers in your search areas. You can select up to 8 providers to include in your Price Finder report. Everest clients can generate reports for free. If you're not an Everest client, you can search the database for free and create a report for a small one-time fee. Each report can include up to 8 funeral homes. If more comparisons are needed, you can create multiple reports. Every report we provide gives you a detailed pricing schedule for each funeral home, enabling you to make the best possible choice. You can then print, email, or save your report to your computer. And when you return to Price Finder later, you can view all the reports you have created in the past. Everest Price Finder, taking the hassle and complexity out of finding the right funeral provider to match your needs and your budget.
Okay, so this report is what I call like the Expedia.com of funeral homes. Did you know that there are more funeral homes in America than there are car dealerships? So what we've done, so being in business for just over 20 years, whenever we help families and deal with funeral homes, we actually tabulate the costs, the different services that they offer. And this is how we have built the most comprehensive database of funeral homes in North America. One of the pages on the 7-page report would look like this. So basically, it's all funeral homes in the area. But for you to generate a report like this, we can only pull 8 at a time. So there's more than 8 funeral homes in your area, depending on the mile radius that you chose to generate the report. Again, you'll need to just generate another report to showcase the next 8. But one report can show 8 at a time. So when you look at the screen here, we show you the list of different services that those funeral homes offer and how much they charge for it. So I was doing a training just outside of the city of Atlanta, and as you can see, there's no big price difference among the funeral homes in that area. But if you go to a city like Houston, we have Advantage Funeral charging $10,000, and just a few miles away, we have George Lewis charging $21,000, which is more than twice as much as Advantage. Now, here's the thing. There's no Target of funeral homes. There's no Walmart of funeral homes. Most of these funeral homes are small business owners. They get to dictate their own pricing. And when you look closely, and I know some of you have kind of quickly caught that, the biggest price difference between Advantage and George Lewis is how much they're paying the director and staff of that funeral home. For Advantage, it's $1,000, and for George Lewis, it's about $8,000. So that's where the big price difference is, you can see already, right? So having access to a report like this can help you manage that conversation with your clients in terms of why you're proposing a certain face amount. Now, most brokers out there who wouldn't have access to Price Finder will probably just be like, okay, the average funeral cost in America is $7,000 to $10,000. But you can have a more educated conversation with your clients or your prospects because you have a price finder report that you can show them where you're showing your prospects that, hey, in your area, it could range between $10,000 to $20,000. Now that's just to cover the funeral costs. But this is a final expense product. It's meant to also help your family with other expenses in finalizing your estate. It's not just funeral expenses, right? So that's how I would use Price Finder. Another way I could leverage Price Finder in my business if I were to be an agent again is that it could be a good prospecting tool. So let's say someone in my community ends up passing away. Instead of me just sending them flowers, I'd be like, I'm so sorry for your loss, but I hope this report will help save you time and money. And after everything is said and done, maybe that prospect or client would be like, hey, can you tell me more about this Everest service? Because I just buried my uncle. If I were to bury my aunt, I wouldn't want to go through the exact same process again. I had to go and GoFundMe to like help cover the expenses of my uncle. So can you tell me more about this Everest services? So like I said, it could be a good prospecting tool. Now for you to be able to have access to this price finder report, as an agent, you need to be a client, right? So if I were you, I get Everest for myself, like what they say, you know, you can't sell shoes if you don't own a pair of shoes, right? So I would, this is how I would leverage Price Finder if I was an agent and also an Everest client through the Transamerica final expense product. So these tools, except for the will, are available on your smart device, depending on what kind of smart device you have. It's available on the App Store or Google Play. The reason why the will is not available because it's part of a different company website called Epoch. Like I said earlier, we partnered with a third-party vendor called Epoch for them to be able to provide the legal documents to your clients. But the other tools, the other services that Everest offers in terms of technology will be part of the Everest app. And this is a free app that you can download. So like I said in the beginning, I won't be touching on the actual product of the Transamerica Final Expense. Reach out to Steve for more of the technical training on the Final Expense product. But here's how the journey looks like. Steps 1 to 3. So step 1, as soon as your client has this in force for themselves, they will receive a brochure in the mail within 3 weeks' time. And I'll show you how that brochure will look like. But once they receive that brochure, once this policy is in force, they can start logging into the website. Their enrollment code is their policy number. And that's how they register themselves as a first-time user. Once they're in the website, they can start utilizing those tools that I just showed you, run price finder reports, put in their My Wishes documents, upload stuff into their Tenzing, complete their legal documents. So everything I talked about. And then they can just log in there whenever they need to update or upload documents into their Everest account. Now, the second half of the journey is, of course, when that time comes, steps 4, 5, 6, that's when the client's family will now reach out to Everest to have an Everest funeral director to be assigned to them and do the legwork for the entire funeral planning process. So that would be steps 4, 5, 6. This is how the brochure will look like. So you can see right here, the enrollment code. That's technically the Transamerica policy number. Okay, and then it's going to be customized to your client's name. So they're going to be receiving this digitally and as well as a physical brochure in the mail within 3 weeks' time. Now, as an agent, this is how I would leverage and use this brochure. I would ask the clients to rip off these 5 cards that you see on the farthest right. Rip those off, have the client hand it to their family, their designees, to their friends, beneficiaries. And, you know, it could be where they tell those people, you know, Mr. Best Friend, can you do me a favor? When that time comes, can you help out my family? Call the 1-800 number to start the process. They're 24/7 so that, you know, my family doesn't have to go through a harder time, right? So one of the things that other brokers have come up with is attaching their own business card onto these cards. So the number that you see on these cards is the 1-800 number of Everest. That's the number they're going to call, the family's going to call to Everest so that we can assign them a funeral director, send them the Transamerica death claim forms, and get the process started. Now, if they're handing it off, maybe that person would be like, well, I want one for myself too. And I want my wife to have access to this Everest. So then the client can say, well, my agent's business card is attached to that card as well. So give them a call and tell them that, you know me. So again, another way for you to get referrals, generate leads for yourselves as an agent. So just quickly, we're towards the end of the presentation. I know there's a lot of questions in the chat box. I'll get to those questions after this, but this is how I would bring it up. This is like just a few suggestions on how you can lead the conversation using Everest. I know being in the final expense space, you're used to talking about the final expense insurance first and then talking about the riders. But you could also use Everest as if it's a different product and you're starting the conversation with Everest. And if they end up wanting Everest for themselves, then you could say, well, this is how you get it. You need to apply and be approved with Transamerica because they offer this Everest service through their Transamerica Final Expense Express product. So if you're going to lead with Everest, the conversation can go like this. You know what, Mr. Client, when that time comes, who will be taking care of your final arrangements? Would it be your spouse, your eldest child, or your adult children, your siblings? Would they know where to start? Would they have access to $20,000, $25,000 in as quick as 3 days? Right? So that's how you can lead with Everest. At the end of the day, and as you know, this is not a just in case insurance. It's not just in case you get into a car accident. That's why you have car insurance. It's not just in case you get sick. That's why there's critical illness out there. This is something we know that everyone's going to need. Recent studies show that the mortality rate continues to hover around 100%, right? So everyone and anyone you talk to would need a service like this. They would need final expense, right? So that's how I bring it up. And then this is my last slide. Being the final expense space, it's all about making sure your funnel is full. It keeps flowing. You have a lot of referrals coming in, a lot of leads coming in. Most agents, there's nothing wrong with this, but most agents, they buy leads. But if you understand how you can leverage Everest in your conversations, you might not have to really worry about where you can get your next prospect. Because if you're already faced with one person, you're sitting down with that person right in front of you and you're talking to them about Everest, don't stop with them getting Everest. Ask that same client, you know what, Mr. Client, thanks for getting Everest, right? Or thanks for getting this final expense that has the Everest rider. But who are the people you're going to be responsible for? Because this Everest service is only linked to you, the life insured. So let's say it's your spouse who ends up passing away first. It's your mom who ends up passing away first. Would you know where to start? Would you have access to $20,000 in 3 days? You can't come to me when that time comes and say, hey, Melisha, you know how I got Everest from you, but it's my mom who passed away. Can I use my Everest on my mom? The answer would be no. So let's have this conversation now. Who are the people you're going to be responsible for? Do you still have parents around? Do you have in-laws, your spouse, your children? Because like I said, if they don't have Everest, you cannot use your Everest, Mr. Client, on those people. So will you guys offer this service for a fee for clients that have Transamerica already? No. They have to apply and be approved with this new Transamerica Final Expense product to get the Everest service. So that's a good question. So like I said, this is my last slide. But now let's get into the chat box here. the last question I saw, will you guys offer this service for a fee to clients that have Transamerica already? No, we cannot just attach the services to existing products. They have to apply for a new product. Now, the minimum face amount for the new Transamerica final expense product is $5,000. So if they already have life insurance in place, either with Transamerica or other companies, there's nothing wrong with you offering them a $5,000 coverage just to get them the new Everest rider. Okay. Next question, suppose they have their own funeral home. I would still see this as a benefit in terms of, you know, how many clients does that funeral home have where the family doesn't have the means to pay? So they have to either wait for the family to be able to afford the service. So they just maybe put them in the refrigerator. And funeral homes, I think they charge like a daily fee for every day that, you know, they're storing the body, right? I would still have that conversation with the funeral home because that could also be a good source of referrals for you as an agent. When you're talking to an owner of a funeral home, like, hey, the money can get to that family in as quick as 3 days, right? So things like that. Next question, can we offer the wills to clients who only need these types of documents outside of a life insurance policy? No. So like I said, if you want your clients to have these legal documents, get them Everest, get them a minimum $5,000 final expense express product, minimum $5,000 face amount, and that will get them the entire Everest offering that you see on the screen here. Will this be available? I think I mentioned that earlier. Those documents will not be available in any languages because in America, we only recognize English as, you know, the official language for contracts. What are the underwriting guidelines for this FE product? Reach out to your Transamerica representative. So I work with Everest. So Bill said he'll get them to you guys. Are there any other questions? Maybe unmute yourselves or put in the chat box, or else we're done. And Bill, thanks for having me. Thanks for, you know, asking for this presentation. I'm really excited what you guys can do in this conversation with your clients. Michelle has a question. Michelle?
Hi, that's a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. I noticed that you give them we can look up with all the funeral planning places in the country. What about cemeteries?
Well, they're funeral homes. I'm not,
Okay.
it's funeral homes in the area.
Okay, just the funeral homes. Okay. And my other
Right.
question is, if the client happens to, let's say they lose their policy, lapse their policy, right? They will lose the access to Everest. Is that correct? Okay. Okay.
We can give them enough time, maybe a few weeks to like
Okay.
retrieve the documents.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's right. If it's for as long as the policy is in force,
Right.
the life insurance is in force, they will have access to Everest until they pass away.
Okay.
Once it lapses, once they cancel it, they lose Everest.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Great questions. Thanks, Michelle. Any other questions?
No other questions? Well, I just want to say thank you. You know, this was a very thorough presentation. And Scott Grody will be doing a training for Transamerica guys next Wednesday. I'll get that out to you via Eventbrite, so you guys can go through another training. You can go on the YouTube page and watch the overview of the Transamerica FE Express products. Some people wrote the products this week, so they're waiting on pay right now. So we got a couple people. So I just want to tell you guys, thank you guys for jumping on this. We're going to put this presentation back on YouTube so you guys can see it, and stay tuned till next week when Scott Grody will do a full presentation to help you guys walk you through an application. And feel free to call me if you need anything. I can always email you the guides, presentation guides, anything else like that. But right now, you can log into your back office, and you guys will be able to see the actual FE Express tool, and you can use it. You can quote, pre-qualify, and everything right now. So it is live. So go back there, guys, and go ahead and write. If you last thing, if you have different estate appointments, you want to make sure that you email that over to Transamerica and get your other state appointments up, because their box that they have for the FE Express is only showing like some of the states you're appointed with, not every state. So if you're going to write it virtually, you need to make sure Transamerica has it so you can write this product in other states. It's not available in PA yet. It will be coming out, in the next coming weeks. Scott's going to give me an update on that. So I'll be keeping you tuned to that. It should be very shortly. It's just a disclosure form on the PA side. So it's not, they don't have it. It's just the PA disclosure form. But other than that, you can write it in Maryland, the DMV, everywhere else, guys, Texas, everywhere else, Delaware. You guys can write this now. So get your clients ready. It's going to be a big week next week, but next week we will have a training on this. So I just want to say that, and thank you so much.
Hey, Bill, I have a quick question. In reference to writing, usually it used to be based on where you're writing. Let's say the client lives in DC, but I'm writing the policy in Maryland. Do I have to have a DC license? Do you have to be licensed in the place where the client lives?
No, where you're writing the application.
Where you're writing the application.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it says
Okay,
that. Yeah, I want you to watch the other training video, and they show that. So you can hit in person, or you can select virtual. So you can select virtual.
Okay.
So you can select where you're doing. If it's in person, that means you're there. Virtual, you're there.
Well, so, I mean, what it could be, could it be? I'm in person, because DC, Maryland is, it's so close to each other, right?
Yeah, you could be in person.
But I could be in person, but they live in DC, but we're in the state of Maryland at that time.
Right. Yeah.
I could still write a Maryland policy on them.
Right. That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, that.
Yeah, I asked that question a bunch of times too. So I got confirmation on that. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Well,
right now they only have me as my resident state.
So you want to contact
I already
them.
did.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hey, I already did. I sent them emails. That was done Friday, so I'm just waiting.
Okay. So it takes a couple of days. They backed up. Yeah. They told me, and they'll make sure that you get appointed, so you can it'll pop up on a pop-up screen.
Right.
Select DC. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, thank you, Militia. I mean, we appreciate you. Did a very thorough job, and I know we'll be talking back to you. So, thank you so much, and we'll take it from here. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bill, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.